This is Cincinnati's 5 o'clock news.
Good evening. Tonight, Shane Kehoe connected his brother to the worst terrorist act in American history.
This admission came soon after Shane was sentenced to 24 years and 5 months in prison for the attempted murder and felonious assault of 2 police officers. You might remember that he and his brother were part of a videotaped shootout that happened nearly a year ago in Wilmington. Now, our Lynn Giroux joins us to tell us more about how Shane connected Chevy Kehoe to the bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building. Lynn?
Well, Randy, it was immediately after his sentencing that reporters had a chance to ask Shane Kehoe some questions. Immediately, we asked about the speculation over his brother Chevy's involvement in the bombing. Now, he said that his brother was involved in some way in a bombing. Someone asked, was it the Murrow building? He would not say for sure, but he said his brother did have some sort of involvement in a bombing.
At this point, I do have knowledge of my brother's involvement in the bombing of a federal building.
What is that involvement?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Shane Kehoe told me on the first day of my representation of him that he had knowledge with regards to his brother's involvement in the bombing of a federal building. Other than that, I cannot comment any further.
Not the Murrow building.
I can't comment one way or the other.
Now, as he left the courthouse, Kehoe also told us that he is scared of his brother. Shane Kehoe is applying to be transferred to a Washington prison so that he can be closer to his family. Now, according to his defense attorney, Shane Kehoe has not come forward yet with any information linking Chevy Kehoe to the Oklahoma City bombing, but he says that Shane will tell authorities next. So this is the first time he has said this publicly. He will go to federal authorities, the FBI, ATF, and share what he knows about any link between Chevy Kehoe and the Oklahoma City bombing. Randy, Jeanette?
Lynn, Chevy's connection to the Oklahoma City bombing, from where is that allegation being made?
Well, there were a couple sources. There are some reports out that the Kehoes spent some time in an Oklahoma militia camp with Timothy McVeigh. Then there was last week a motel clerk out of Spokane, Washington came forward and said that the day of the bombing, Chevy Kehoe checked into the motel, wanted a room with CNN, and after the bombing said something to the sort of, it's about time. So add those to the comment Shane made today, and the evidence certainly does seem to be piling up here.
All right. Thanks for the report, Lynn. Well, topping our News Digest now, a Winton Terrace woman says her boyfriend held her hostage for days and beat her with a hammer.
But the man's mother tells Channel 9 the girlfriend is making up the story. Police are looking for 20-year-old Jesse Page. His mother says he just got out of prison in April for domestic violence charges with another woman. Now he faces kidnapping and domestic violence charges for what happened in this apartment he shared with his most recent girlfriend. A tragic story out of Indianapolis today. 2 women were shot and killed at the in-home daycare center they ran. Police have charged the husband of one of the women. None of the children was hurt. It's not known if they were in the room at the time of the shooting. Again, this happened in Indianapolis. Now, there's not enough evidence to figure out whether UC medical student Tony Praviano's death last month was murder or suicide. That's what the private pathologist hired by Praviano's family told reporters at a news conference today. He was hired after the Belmont County coroner ruled the death as suicide and refused to do an autopsy. The 29-year-old was found shot to death in this wooded area in St. Clairsville, Ohio.
Well, in Boston, researchers say they have cloned 2 identical genetically engineered calves, and it's an important development because it could be a step toward creating farm animals that can produce drugs for humans in their milk. Milk would contain proteins helpful to humans like blood clotting protein, for example. The process could lead to breakthroughs in the treatment for Parkinson's and for Alzheimer's diseases.
The first day of jury selection is over in the Oprah Winfrey beef battle in Amarillo, Texas. The judge excused some potential jurors because they said they liked the TV star. Texas cattlemen are suing Winfrey for statements she made on her show. On a show about mad cow disease, Winfrey said she wouldn't, quote, eat another burger. The plaintiffs claim that statement caused cattle prices to fall to their lowest levels in a decade.
Theodore Kaczynski is competent to stand trial, but the question is now who will represent him. Both sides agreed today that the Unabomber suspect understands what's happening and is able to help his lawyers defend himself. Kaczynski doesn't want his attorneys to base their defense on his mental state, however. The judge will decide later this week if Kaczynski will stick with his current attorneys or represent himself.
Cuban President Fidel Castro is going all out to welcome Pope John Paul. Choirs and performers are starting to tune up in Revolution Square, where the Pope will celebrate Mass Sunday. Castro is giving workers time off with pay so they can attend the Masses. Pope John Paul II arrives tomorrow in Cuba, which is decked out with posters of the Pope all over the island.
The remains of one of the men buried in Arlington National Cemetery's Tomb of the Unknowns may be known. The family of this Air Force pilot, Michael Blassie, who was shot down in Vietnam in 1972, think it is probably him. The Pentagon says it's considering DNA testing of the remains.
President Clinton awarded the Medal of Honor to a hero in the battle for Okinawa. Retired Marine Corps General James Day was given the nation's highest award for valor for holding off a Japanese assault of Sugarloaf Hill while attending to a wounded comrade. For years, Day forbade subordinates from nominating him for the award, saying that it would set a bad example for the ranks.
The Cincinnati Zoo has one less elephant today. The 10-year-old male called Sabu moved to the Louisville Zoo on Friday. Princess Shotzi will soon follow. The zoo doesn't have enough room for these four elephants, and we're told that a newborn is due this year. And the levy defeat makes it unclear just when the zoo will have money to expand.
Mike Tyson wants to get back in the ring, and this time as a wrestler. Pro wrestler Steve Austin challenged him to a wrestling match, and Tyson has accepted. Nevada boxing officials say Tyson could wrestle because it is a, quote, staged entertainment event. Tyson was banned, you'll remember, from boxing after biting off a piece of Evander Holyfield's ear last summer.
You're seeing the first pictures of the crossbred offspring of a giant Arabian camel and its smaller relation, the llama. Hey, you better stand up there, guy. Scientists wanted to reunite the species after a separation of some 40 million years. A fully grown male camel and an adult female llama were crossbred in the world's first artificial insemination of two animals. The Kama, as it's called, was born last week, and you can expect to see life here in a few weeks. Wow.
They're going to have another one. He's a cute little thing.
Going to have another one. All right.
Time now for our first check of weather and traffic this evening.
And we begin with Chief Meteorologist Pete Delkus, who is in the Weather Center.
Well, we've actually had a pretty decent day around here today. We've seen a little bit of sunshine. As a matter of fact, take a look at Skycam 9, and that will show that there's still a little bit of sunshine peeking out every so often. There you go. Still obscured by some clouds, but yes, it is out there, and we'll have a nice fast-forward weather for you later on tonight. A typical day for us around here. I'll have all the temperature details when I come back in a few minutes. Right now, time for traffic. Mike Schmitz in the Artemis Control Center with an update. Hi, Mike.
And good afternoon, Pete. Right now, looking at really good traffic. 2 days in a row of afternoon traffic starting out in good shape. Do have at least one slowdown. Very brief, though. 71 northbound just north of 275. A little heavy and occasionally slowing at the 275 merge. Let's look at our camera. Here's 75 north and southbound at Mitchell Avenue. A lot of cars there, but everybody at the speed limit. So for all the good news, give us a call at 333-3333 or find us on the web. It's information on the highway on the information superhighway, smarttraveler.com. Back in 30 minutes with more traffic.
All right, thanks, Mike. And there's more news ahead for you on ABC 9. An amazing surgery could let a quadriplegic use his hands again.
Also changing the way we dial the telephone. We'll tell you why the phones need some updating.
And a part of the past could be making a comeback. Some people say it's time to bring streetcars back to Cincinnati.
Every week, movie patrons eat millions.
The future of downtown Cincinnati development is borrowing a page from the past.
And if you're over the age of 50, it will probably spark a few fond memories as well. In our cover story tonight, Laura Randall tells us about the effort underway to bring back the streetcar.
To work, to shop, to school, for more than half a century, the street railway system was the way to get there. Even today, many Cincinnatians can recite their daily routes.
I took the 21 Westwood Cheviot from Cheviot down to the Brighton corner and then transferred onto the crosstown, which was 31, and that would take me up to school.
This restored curbsider car from the 20s on display at the Historical Society Museum brings back memories.
Now, if you wanted to get off, okay, you had to sit and ring this bell. And of course, there was always
that's right, I forgot that.
One kid would be hanging on it and too loud.
Now this piece of the past could shape the future of downtown Cincinnati development, a group calling itself Cincinnati Street Railway.
We'll come over 12th Street here to Elm.
Is trying to bring the streetcar back.
My dream is to see this thing come alive and add a lot of flavor and character, as well as transportation to downtown.
The plan is to link the major downtown attractions with streetcars. Proposed lines are posted on the Street Railway website.
People could come and park in one place and go to various venues, different attractions, be it in Covington or Newport or Cincinnati Riverfront, downtown and over the Rhine, without having to repark, for instance, and enjoy the ride along the way.
In Memphis, Tennessee, a 2.5-mile streetcar line gets credit for revitalizing a section of downtown.
When you put in the train tracks or the trolley tracks, you're actually making a huge commitment, much more than a bus service. And those trolley lines then become lines of development.
Supporters believe it could happen here and everyone would want to be on board.
Oh, I'd love to, yeah. I was sorry to see them go.
I think the idea that we could commute maybe back and forth to the museum, enjoy downtown, do a ride, it's nostalgic. I think that would be a great idea.
Well, there's a lot of momentum behind this project, but funding issues could stop the streetcar in its tracks. It would cost at least $3.7 million to bring the inaugural route online. Some of that could come from federal transportation grants, but local money and private donations would have to be part of the mix, and it could take 5 years to get it all together.
We were talking about why the push for authentic streetcars and maybe not a more modern running thing, and where would they get these authentic cars?
Well, now they like the authentic look because that nostalgia is part of the mix they're trying to make up. Now they couldn't get the real thing because the real thing is very hard to find anymore. A lot of cities have gotten ahead of us on this and snapped up the real thing, but there are replicas being made, and that's probably what they'll end up going with, replicas.
They sure moved around the corners real fast in the film.
You know, in that film, when you speed up that old film, they speed, don't they?
Okay, so they're not actually...
That's not representative of how fast they might travel. Okay. Thanks, Laura.
Still ahead, a final resting place for your virtual pet.
And what do working couples really need to make their lives easier? Also, Chief Meteorologist Pete Delkus will join us with a full forecast.
Men, is gray hair sneaking up?
Just ahead, weather forecasting straight to the point with Chief Meteorologist Pete Delkus and Storm Tracker Doppler Radar. You're watching 9 News, where every minute counts.
They're cold and cough.
So what we've been seeing is pretty representative of January. We should be happy, I guess, with what we got.
Temperatures in the 30s and colder at night.
Today was exactly how it's supposed to be historically for this time of year. 36 was our high, 19 was our low, and those are the normals for today. So a very, very typical day here in Cincinnati. And that's kind of unusual because we've been well above normal as we've gone through the winter. Let me show you what we have happening outside right now. Clouds, yes, they've been in and out all day, and the sun has been peeking out every so often. Temperatures have been fairly decent for this time of year, as we just talked about. 34, our current temperature. Our winds are out of the east at 7, so we have a wind chill of 26 degrees. All across the region, temperatures are pretty typical for right now. 28 in Columbus, 30 in Toledo, and 29 in Chicago. The winds, of course, do make it feel cooler. 14 in Chicago, 16 in Indianapolis, and 17 the wind chill factor right now in Pittsburgh. Here you go. Satellite picture shows the clouds that have been moving in every so often as we have gone through today. I expect us to stay partly to mostly cloudy as we go through tonight. And as we head into tomorrow, we could see a peak or two of sunshine, but again, don't count on a whole lot. Snow flurries, yes, some here in southern Illinois, also in southern Indiana. We could see a few snow flurries around here late tonight, early tomorrow morning, but a better place, Lima, Dayton, places that are to the north of Cincinnati. I think that's going to be a better chance for some snow flurries tonight and into tomorrow morning. Otherwise, mainly dry for us tonight. And I think we're dry during the morning, but by tomorrow afternoon, we do have some rain that starts to work in. High pressure's kept us dry. That moves out. This next system moves in, and again, by late tomorrow afternoon, some scattered showers do make their way into the tri-state. 43, our high temperature tomorrow in Cincinnati. like this. Peaks of the sunshine every so often. That's possible at least through the first half of the day, but by the afternoon, by this time tomorrow, we're going to be cloudy and we should see a few scattered showers starting to pop up. 28 will be the low tonight, so warmer than last night. Again, we had a low last night or this morning of 19 degrees. Rain does figure into the forecast, a 40% chance by this time tomorrow afternoon, and there's your high again of 43. The 5-day forecast, there's the rain late Wednesday into Thursday, also early on Friday, maybe some snow flurries working in on Friday with that rain, and a few flurries even lingering on Saturday, but dry on Sunday. Jeanette?
All right, Pete, thanks. You probably won't be too surprised by the results of a new study about working couples. It says the one thing dual working couples want most is flexibility to support each other's career needs. The study also says most couples see the second income as freedom to take career risks, like quitting their jobs if they're not satisfied.
More and more businesses are using vanity phone numbers to spell out words and phrases so you can remember them and call them. But there are only 24 letters in the English language available on telephone keypads, so some words are off limits. That's about to change, though. Take a look at your telephone now. You see, 40 years ago when they invented this stuff on telephones, 2 letters were left off. There was the letters Q and Z. See right there? All right, well, on the new keypads, Q will join P, R, and S. You got 4 letters on the number 7, and you got 4 letters on the number 9, because that's where Z is joining W, X, and Y. People with older phones can still use the 7 to dial Q and the 9 to dial Z. You just have to use your imagination and remember the alphabet.
So what do you do when your child's virtual pet dies? Well, in Hungary, the answer is simple. Take the Tamagotchi, Nano, or Giga to a special cemetery. That's right. A businessman has donated space for the toy's remains. There, a man dressed as Santa leads the funeral service, and an urn holding the pet is placed on a wall with the pet's name beneath it.
I think the battery just dies.
You just let
send
it
it
go.
off to the battery company.
That's it. Let him
Coming
go.
up next in Health Watch, a man who lost the use of his hands may be able to write once again. We'll tell you about daring surgery that was done.
Also coming up, using computers to check pap smears sounds like a good idea, but is it worth the price? The results of a new study on that next.
And a new pair of scissors is cutting the length of some operations in half. I am just amazed all that science is doing. Tonight, Louisville doctors are making history by giving a paralyzed teenager the use of his hand back.
Yeah, Bill Price joins us with this interesting story in Health Watch and says hand surgeons have now completed the historic operation that they first promised last fall.
Right, and we told you about last fall. It's come true. For the first time in the tri-state Louisville area, doctors are hoping to restore the use of a hand in a man who's quadriplegic. Delicate surgery took place at Clark Memorial Hospital just outside of Louisville this afternoon. It implanted an electrical device in the hand of a paralyzed Louisville teenager. Now, the device is called Freehand. Doctors implant electrodes in the patient that stimulate the hand nerves to make the parallel muscles contract. The device is made in Cleveland. A patient there explains how Freehand changed his life.
Right again, you know, without having all this adapted equipment all over your hands, it's really, I mean, it's really made a big difference. And you know, and it's just things like that that people don't think about. But it's, I mean, just those simple things that are just fabulous, that are just great to be able to do.
Now, Freehand is considered one of the most advanced medical systems in the world, and researchers say in the future the same technology may be adapted to help paralyzed patients stand or even walk for limited periods. A new study out tonight warns that computerized pap smear checks do not improve test accuracy enough to justify its high cost. An Army study of pap smears compared the PapNet computerized pap smear rechecks to those done by a second human technician. Although PapNet costs over 10 times more than a technician recheck, study found that PapNet discovered just 5 additional suspicious pap smears out of a batch of more than 5,000. PapNet recheck costs between $25 and $40 per patient, costs rarely covered by health insurance. Having a human technician simply recheck a pap smear averages only $3 in extra costs. Well, if you have a close relative who has had a heart attack or cardiac arrest, science says you're at least 50% higher risk of having the same thing happen to you. That's the finding of a new study done both in Israel and Seattle. However, researchers say these genetic risks are much smaller than the risks from unhealthy habits like smoking or eating a high-fat diet. Well, Scottish doctors tonight are helping some children breathe easier by using a revolutionary new surgical tool to make small incisions. In Dundee, Scotland, surgeons there are using electrosurgical scissors
that apparently can both cut and cauterize tissues at the same time. Doctors say the new tissues limit blood loss, or rather new scissors limit blood loss, and they reduce operating time by half for procedures like tonsillectomies. By sealing those tissues quickly, patients often do not need blood transfusions during the operation. New scissors have been approved for use in this country, should start being used in operating rooms this spring.
See it real soon. Thanks, Bill. There's more news ahead. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Ray for Richmond, Indiana said
Back tree service.
Playboy magazine founder Hugh Hefner and his wife Kimberly are separating. Now, this is video of the pair in 1989 when they announced their engagement and they got married. A brief statement from the magazine says the pair have differing interests. It says Kimberly Conrad Hefner will live with the couple's 2 children on property adjoining Hefner's mansion in California. Hugh Hefner is 71 years old. Mrs. Hefner is a former Playmate of the Year and is 34.
There's a new member of the pop sensation Hanson family. Blonde brothers Zach, Taylor, and Isaac now have a little sister, Zoe Genevieve Hanson. Little Zoe, the 7th Hanson child, was born last week in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it seems that already requests are flooding in about the new baby from Hanson fans all over the world, including Randy Little.
I'm a big fan
big Hanson fan.
Bop or whatever that's like. Okay.
That's Cincinnati's 5 o'clock news for you on this Tuesday.
Carol has a look now at stories you'll see next at 5:30.
All right. Thanks a lot, Randy and Jeanette. And thanks to you for watching. Coming up next on 9 News, police are looking for this man who is accused of holding his girlfriend hostage for 11 days. We wanted to know if domestic violence cases are on the rise or just being reported more. Hagit Lamore reports. Oprah's beef trial gets underway in Amarillo, Texas. We will show you the circus atmosphere as jury selection begins. And is your doctor a deadbeat? A new website reveals at least 3 tri-state doctors have defaulted on student loans. And in sports, see how Xavier basketball has taken off. It's all next.
Welcome to Rallies. May I take your order?
Yeah, feed.
At 5:30, this is 9 News.
Good evening. A Winton Terrace woman tells police her boyfriend terrorized her for 11 days.
The boyfriend has a history of domestic violence, but his mother says the woman is making up the story. It's just one more example of the case police dread the most, domestic violence. If you recall, that's the warrant Cincinnati officers Pope and Jeter were trying to serve when they were shot and killed last month. Tonight, Hagit Lamore tells us how this latest case fits in with what seems to be a trend.
Jesse Page just got out of prison in April, serving time for domestic violence. It was his 3rd domestic charge in his 2 years as an adult. But now, in this Winton Terrace apartment, Page's current girlfriend says the 20-year-old abused her repeatedly.
The woman says Page held her here at their apartment for days, that he punched her repeatedly, held a knife to her throat, slammed her against the wall, even beat her with a hammer. Now, as shocking as all this might seem, it's just one of many cases in the last few months.
Just last week, a woman in Crittenden, Kentucky, escaped after her estranged husband held her and her sister hostage for several hours. 1 week before, in Pleasant Ridge, an 8-hour hostage standoff. It took the SWAT team to end this domestic situation. And a month earlier in Chillicothe, Ohio.
And when I opened up my bedroom door, I had a .22 rifle gun in my face. And I backed up. He took the butt of the gun and hit me in the head with it.
Police arrested her estranged husband on many of the same kidnapping and domestic charges Page will face as soon as police find him.
It seems like they've been really serious lately, and that is scary.
Ann McDonald is the executive director of the local domestic violence center, Women Helping Women.
Are there more domestic violence cases right now, or is it just that we're hearing more?
I really think it's just that we're hearing more. You know, for a long time, we've thought that domestic violence was something not to be taken seriously. We're not doing that anymore. We are saying to abusers, this is wrong, you should not be doing that.
But some still downplay the crime. When Fayetteville faced its first murder in 24 years this weekend, the chief explained they're not used to such fatal violence.
just the regular everyday mill stuff, you know, and domestic violence, stuff like that is basically what we got. And this here is a real shock to everybody.
We know that it's not run-of-the-mill. We know that it can be very serious. Domestic violence can turn into murder, and it's very serious.
Serious if it's a local activist, talk show host Nate Livingston, facing a domestic charge New Year's Eve, or a national celebrity. Police had to calm a domestic dispute between Roseanne and her now estranged third husband. Or a much less high-profile local man police hope to find before any more violence takes place. Hagit Lamore, Channel 9 News.
We wanted to take this opportunity to pass along a number in case you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence. This is the YWCA Women Helping Women Protect Hotline. The local number is 872-9259.
Unabomber suspect Ted Kaczynski is competent to stand trial, but we still don't know if he can be his own lawyer. Psychiatrist Dr. Sally Johnson's report on Kaczynski's mental state convinced both sides he's competent. They say he understands the charges and proceedings against him and can assist his attorneys. But the judge will decide on Thursday whether Kaczynski can represent himself.
The judge can order these defense attorneys to present whatever defense the judge wants them to present. And if they refuse, he can find them in contempt and sentence them to jail.
Kaczynski's lawyers told the judge they should not be forced to defend their client without being allowed to present a mental illness defense. The judge says he's leaning toward making Kaczynski keep his current lawyers.
At one point today, laughter broke the tension in an Amarillo, Texas courtroom where Oprah Winfrey is fighting a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. During jury selection, the talk show host jokingly glared at a potential juror who said she doesn't always enjoy Oprah's show. But there's also a very serious side to this case and those charges that Oprah's facing. Reporter Susan Parks is following the trial and brings us up to date.
Talk show host Oprah Winfrey left the federal courthouse in Amarillo, Texas for lunch to shouts of support. Oprah! Today, jury selection got underway in the Texas cattleman's lawsuit against Winfrey. Angie DeAndrea is one of several people from the jury pool who were excused. She was let go after revealing to Judge Mary Lou Robinson that her father worked for the cattle industry.
I said yes, it would affect my decision.
It will be difficult to find an impartial jury in a town whose economy rests largely on the beef industry. Nearly everyone knows the lead plaintiff in the case, Paul Engler. He sued Oprah, claiming she defamed the beef industry during a broadcast 2 years ago about mad cow disease.
We have a lot of questions about this mad cow disease that we'd like to try to get resolved, because we don't want to just to alarm you all, but I have to tell you, I'm thinking about the cattle being fed to the cattle, and that's pretty upsetting to me.
At least a fourth of the jury pool has either worked at a feedlot or raised cattle. One jury expert says the real issue is whether prospective jurors can set aside that bias.
The real issue, Janet, is whether they're sensitive to their unconscious feelings and desires, whether they're aware of how they feel at a subliminal level.
What the court also has to be sensitive to is prospective jurors who might be inclined to downplay any prejudices in the hopes of becoming famous by securing a spot on this panel. In Amarillo, I'm Susan Parks for ABC News.
Deadbeat doctors beware. The federal government is out to collect tonight. Today, the government posted on the internet the names of 1,400 doctors who defaulted on student loans. All told, they owe the government more than $107 million. When we checked the site, we found the names of 3 local people. One person listed is Daniel L. Howard, Jr. from Milford. The records show he owes more than $38,000 for chiropractic school loans. But our search found the State Chiropractors Board doesn't even have a record of such a person. The next name we found is chiropractor Stephen Etzel of Wilmington. Etzel owes more than $43,000. He had no comment about the list. The final local name on the list is a dentist from Walnut Hills. He owes more than $100,000. He told us the list is wrong and he'll show us proof in a couple of days. So we're not identifying him by name yet. But if you want to see the complete list, the website can be found at www.defaulteddocs.dhhs.gov.
Northern Kentucky is looking prosperous these days. A Chamber of Commerce study shows that the region's economy has nearly doubled in the last 10 years. That story tops Northern Kentucky News tonight. The Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce unveiled that economic report at its Eggs and Issues program this morning. Economists credit the airport as a catalyst for much of the growth and say the region is way ahead of the national economy.
If you go back and look at the data historically, you will see that the Northern Kentucky economy is growing a bit less than 3 times as rapidly as the U.S. economy.
Pretty impressive. What's more, Zinn predicts 7% economic growth for Northern Kentucky this year, employment growth at twice the national rate, and a 6.9% rise in wages and salaries.
On the topic of the airport, another one bites the dust at Greater Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Airport. AirTran, the last low-fare airline at the airport, is pulling its one daily flight after February 28th. AirTran just recently merged with ValueJet, and the new company is changing its routes. AirTran has been running flights between Cincinnati and Orlando since 1995.
Reading is something many of us take for granted.
That's right. You want to read something, you just sit down and open your magazine or your book. But that simple task is a huge struggle for our Student of the Week. Next, you'll be impressed by the way this young girl is working to overcome her problems.
Tonight we travel to Hamilton to meet our Student of the Week.
Michelle Hopkins takes us to Hamilton High School, where one teenager is refusing to rely on help from others to get by. Instead, she's taking a good look in the mirror.
Just imagine for a minute, you pick up a book and open it up, and instead of seeing words on a page, you see what amounts to an alphabet soup. This week's student has had to deal with that every day, and that can make learning anything very tough.
Michaelina Lissel has had to work twice as hard to learn what comes easy for most students. Michaelina has the learning disability dyslexia.
It's hard because you have so many people around you that are not like you and make fun of people like you, and it's just, and they don't know how it feels.
You can tell it's not easy for Michaelina living with a disability, but the great thing is she's not letting her dyslexia get her down.
Absolute perseverance.
Coordinator Jill White describes Michaelina as someone who refuses to accept labels.
She helps herself, as opposed to waiting for us to give her anything. She actually utilizes everything to her benefit.
Besides helping herself in the classroom, Michaelina helps others by volunteering.
It brings my self-esteem up because I know I can help somebody else instead of somebody helping me.
After graduating high school, Michaelina says she wants to be a nurse, and she's starting right now learning all she can.
And Michaelina has already learned a lot about being a nurse. She can even take your blood pressure. Okay, how am I doing?
110/30.
That good?
I pass with flying colors, and in a very big way, so does Michaelina.
She never gives up. She doesn't always get the A, but she at least gets a C or a B. And sometimes that's better than anybody else's A because she's had to work so hard just to memorize the information.
With me, hard work is worth a big reward. Michaelina Lissel, the Channel 9 Student of the Week.
And Michaelina is a big credit to Hamilton High School. We want to know about other really neat students. Principals and teachers need to drop me a line here at the station, 500 Central Avenue, Cincinnati 45202. I'm Michelle Hopkins.
Good for Michaelina.
Absolutely. Well, the sun managed, and we do emphasize managed, to peek through the clouds a few times today.
But it looks like some freezing rain may be in our forecast. So Chief Meteorologist Pete Delkus is next with details on how it could affect your morning commute.
Oh, hey.
Okay, we want to find out about that weather for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, just how slick's it going to be?
Yeah, I wanted to put that in the forecast. We're talking less than a 25% chance, and I'm talking spotty stuff across the area. That's worst case scenario. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let me show you what we have going on outside right now. Don't worry too much about it. I just want to mention that in the forecast. And Clyde, you know me, I'm definitely not an alarmist. I just want to let people know the facts. Nothing but the facts. 34 degrees our current temperature. Our winds are out of the east at 7, and our wind chill right now at 26%. So what do we have to look forward to? What's ahead? Well, we do have moisture moving in. You saw that on Skycam 9. The clouds are in the process of rolling in, and that's going to continue as we go through the next several days. And before you get any snow or rain down on the ground, you have to saturate the atmosphere, and that's what we're doing right now. The clouds are rolling in. That moisture is also just continuing to stream in. So what about tomorrow morning? Freezing drizzle, it's a possibility, but I'm talking real spotty, real light, and just real scattered across the area, if anything at all. Worst case scenario, it's going to be scattered across the area, and I'm talking less than a 25% chance. So there's a very, very good chance. It's pretty likely that it will not happen, but I at least want to let you know that it's a possibility. Temperatures warm up as we go through the day, and by this time tomorrow afternoon or early tomorrow evening, we will see some scattered light rain across the area. So that's the way things are going to shape up as we go through the next 24 hours. Now, in southern Indiana, southern Illinois, also moving into eastern Illinois, we do have a little bit of light snow. We could see a few light snow flurries around here. I guess light does constitute snow flurries, but we'll see a few snow flurries around here as we head through late tonight, early tomorrow morning, mainly north of Cincinnati, Dayton, Lima, places that are north of us, we could pick up a little bit of that. Otherwise, the area of high pressure that's kept us dry yesterday and today, this high, yeah, it's moving out, and it is giving way to this, another area of low pressure and a cold front. Our next storm system, and that one is going to move in and keep us wet and cloudy as we head beginning Wednesday night, right through the end of the work week, and even a few snow flurries in our forecast for Saturday. Now, the 24-hour forecast tonight at 10, mainly cloudy, or a peak or two of clearing, but a temperature then of 31. 28 the low for tonight, and again, we could see real isolated, very isolated, a few spotty areas of some patchy freezing drizzle, otherwise a low of 28 tomorrow on dry weather. Just step outside and do yourself a favor before you head out to work and turn on the news, and Rod will have an updated forecast tomorrow morning, all the street information for you if anything should take place. 35 temperature at noontime, some sun peeking out every so slightly, and 43 the high temperature tomorrow. The 5-day forecast, you can expect, Clyde, some snow by maybe late Friday and maybe even a little bit lingering into Saturday, but at this point we don't expect any big deal. And I really, again, I want to emphasize I don't expect tomorrow morning to be anything big either, but when you see things like that on the map, you just want to share with everyone what's going and could possibly take place.
It's better to be forewarned than to find out the hard way as you cross some bridge and lose control of your vehicle.
Right, exactly.
I want that to happen. Thank you, Pete.
Okay.
Well, Xavier basketball action is getting more and more people fired up, and that means the stands are really filling up. Next in sports, we look at growing interest in the Muskies and what it's doing for attendance at the games.
But before we do that, let's take a check of traffic on this Tuesday evening. Mike Schmidt is in the Artemis Control Center with a Smart Traveler update. Hi, Mike.
And hello, Clyde. Right now, just a couple of small problems to get in the way. Problem on 275 westbound. Let me just take a look at that. 275 westbound in Hamilton have a report of a car fire there, but so far no reports of delays getting through the area. Let's look at our camera. Here's Fort Washington Way eastbound, and you'll find that slow from Synergy Field to the exit to 471 south, the usual delay there. I'm Mike Schmidt from the Artemis Control Center.
9 News.
And brought to you by our very own Dennis Jansen.
That's right, looking at Xavier.
And their slow, steady climb to prominence and popularity, because 19th rated Xavier plays St. Joseph's tonight at the Gardens. Tip-off is 9:30 to accommodate an ESPN telecast, which is fortunate because the game is a sellout. That's been the exception rather than the rule this season. In marked contrast to years past, SRO crowds have filled the Gardens for most of the Muskies games. We hear more in today's Nothing But Net with Skip Prosser and our John Popovich.
There's something new in the experience every time the Xavier Musketeers run onto the court at the Cincinnati Gardens.
Every game this year when you walk into the Gardens, there's 10,000 plus.
Xavier's become one of the hottest tickets in this sports town, and the atmosphere that grows out of that isn't lost on the players. It does seem there's a direct correlation between big noisy crowds and big frenzied runs.
When things are rolling, the fans, they get on their feet and they shout and cheer and things like that.
Going out there and playing every day in front of them gives us the extra motivation, knowing that we have, a sold-out crowd almost every night playing at home.
That lets you know that the fans care about the team. They're not just there for the big games like against the Cincinnatis, the UMasses, and the Temples.
And that's the most evident change we see with Xavier. In past years, it was commonplace to fill up the Gardens for the shootout, but then a Butler or Loyola would come to town, and only about 5,000 fans would show up.
In the past, it's always been the place might be sold out because they want to see Xavier play whoever. whether it was UMass or whoever when Coach Gillen was here. But now they come to see Xavier play no matter whomever we're playing.
The results are nothing short of dramatic. Last year, Xavier set a school record with 5 sold-out games. This year, 12 of the 14 home games will be filled to capacity. The season ticket base alone has picked up by some 1,400.
For many years, there was a hue and cry that Xavier needs to play a tougher schedule. If you play that, we'll come. We have, and they've come.
Certainly, marketing and the total entertainment package has played a part. But bringing in recognized basketball teams to the Gardens is the bigger part. Suddenly, there was a realization by the fans that Xavier had a genuine commitment to big-time college hoops.
And there's nothing like that. It's really a big-time atmosphere.
So now the fans have filled up the Gardens. The next step is providing a boisterous home court advantage.
It's interesting how, they clap and clap and clap until we score the first basket and everybody sits down. It's like the air is out of a balloon, and I look forward to the day when they stand up and just keep roaring.
Maybe the Musketeers can have something to say about that. John Popovich, Channel 9 Sports.
We'll have more on the Muskies and more on UC about to face Tulane tonight. And John Popovich reports live from San Diego's scene of Super Bowl 32 when we come back at 6:20.
We've got lots going on.
Indeed we do, Carol.
All right, thanks, Denny. And many stores offer money-back guarantees, but what about a church?
Next, you'll want to hear the story of a minister who's asking his congregation to bank on blessings.
For the first time ever, Wrecker & Berger is offering 12 months.
A Virginia preacher is putting his money where his mouth is. Believe it or not, Reverend Richard Little of Kempsville is offering church members a money-back guarantee on God's blessings. On Sunday, he asked his congregation to tithe, which is to give 10% of their incomes to the church. He says any tithers who don't receive blessings from God within 90 days and who fall upon hard times instead will get a full refund from the church. Little says, quote, "We feel that we can stand on God's guarantee." About 200 people have signed up for the challenge, which would be a story worth following up on.
Yeah, I think so.
That's Channel 9 News at 5:30.
Randy Little's here now with a preview of the stories you'll see at 6 o'clock. Randy?
Well, Clyde and Carol, Shane Kehoe stunned the courtroom today. Up next on 9 News at 6 o'clock, Kehoe talks about his brother Chevy and a bombing at a federal building. Also, the e-check started up again, as you know, but is there a new set of problems now? And the zoo sends one of its elephants packing. It's next on 9.